Remember, what makes you different
Let's go!
is what makes you Spider-Man.
Officer, I love you.
Wait, what?
Hello once again, watchers of Good Movies. My name is Nick Pell, and this is my review of Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Now, for those who are not aware, this is Sony's animated version of Spider-Man. It stars Miles Morales as the primary Spider-Man incarnation in this version. It follows his origin story, and we get to see a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man, or Spider-People, in this film come together, fight a great threat, and it's a really fun movie. One thing that I really liked about the film is how it introduces all the different versions of Spider-Man, because they all kind of give us a really simplified version of their origin story. The main version of Peter Parker that we all know of, we get to see his backstory, we get to see kind of the Uncle Ben thing, the spider bite, various villains that he's fought over his career, and his love, that type of stuff. And so you get to see basically how he became a hero, and all of the different versions of the character have their own version of that, so you get kind of a backstory as to where they're coming from and how they became who they are. And then obviously this film basically acts as Miles' version of that. We see basically how he gets his spider bite in this version, and introduced to his father, his uncle, this universe's version of Spider-Man, the other versions of Spider-Man, things of that sort. And so it's a really cool way to do the story. Miles as a character is also really fun. For some reason I liked his origin story and him being kind of a newer Spider-Man more than I like Tom Holland. I don't know why. In Spider-Man Homecoming, it just seemed really silly and a little too silly for my taste personally, and yet this film is still silly, but maybe just because it's an animated film, PG movie, as opposed to like the more hardcore MCU stuff, it worked better for me. Maybe that's why. But regardless, Miles Morales as a character is really fun to see on screen. He interacts with all the supporting cast really well. His father and Gwen Stacy, who's his classmate, their interactions are also really fun to see play on screen, as well as when he is eventually introduced to the other versions of Spider-Man. He gets to see another version of Peter Parker eventually, and then he's introduced to Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen and Spider-Man Noir and different versions of the character. That all come into play. Some of which I've heard of and played in various video games and such, and others that I had no real idea existed before I saw the trailer for this movie. And that said, the animation of this film is really well done, especially with the various versions of Spider-Man. I would say that Miles, Peter Parker, and Spider-Gwen, they have more of what you expect for their look and kind of fits into the style of the film. But the other characters all kind of have their own style to them, and it kind of makes them stand out. It's something which I really enjoyed seeing, which really distinguished the characters from one another. The world and how it's animated itself just looks very much like a comic book, and it just looks fantastic overall. There's just various elements of just colors being interplayed, and you see just comic book annotations pop up here and there, and it just really adds a lot of color and just makes it feel more alive, honestly. The film, as you expect, is also very funny. There are a number of times which I laughed throughout the film, just because the dialogue is really well done and well written, and there are just certain instances which were really fun to see play out on screen and which just had a lot of comedic elements to them. I will say, in regards to Miles though, a lot of the film takes place with him kind of learning to be Spider-Man, learning who he is, how to use his powers and become the person that he needs to be. Take this leap of faith to dive into your superhero role. And I just think it spends a little too much time on that element. It would have taken a little bit off of the 2-hour runtime if it had kind of shaved that off and kind of sped that process up a little bit. It just kind of dragged on for me personally. And then also there are some predictable elements if you know the lore of Miles Morales' version of Spider-Man, who certain characters in his life end up being in regards to the Spider-Man lore. You can kind of tell more or less where this is going to go when certain characters are introduced and things happen. So it did have some predictable elements in that regard for me personally. Stan Lee also has a cameo in this film, and it is probably the saddest one just because he's passed so recently, but just the way that they do it, just really well done, really touching and really emotional. I really enjoyed that. The ending, when you have all the different characters come together to fight off the big threat, it also works really well. The animation's really well done, the choreography looks amazing, and it just had a lot of really cool fight sequences throughout the course of the film. And the post-credit scene, stay until the very end, because I believe that is basically setting up what the sequel is eventually going to be. I won't go into it here, obviously, but it's a really cool thing if you know about different versions of Spider-Man throughout both the time stream and different multiverse stuff. And so, yeah. Stay tuned for that as well, because it's fun. So guys, well, Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, not a perfect film, but it's a damn fun one. So I would definitely say check this thing out next week when it comes out into full widespread theaters. I don't know why I got to see this early, but I did. So I'm going to review it, and I really hope that you enjoyed the review. But those are my thoughts on Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? What is your favorite version of Spider-Man? What's your favorite Spider-Man movie? Tell me any Spider-Man fact down in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it there. Make sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And as always, mega people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.